What up, friends? It's like pulling teeth, and today we're going to be reviewing Post Malone's newest album, 12 Carat Toothache. This is the fourth studio album overall by American rapper Post Malone. I mean, let's be honest, everybody's heard of Post at this point. He's still at the forefront of the modern pop and pop rap scene, making massive songs, massive hits, and massive collaborations. I personally have never been the biggest fan of Post Malone. There have been like the occasional fun songs from him here and there, and I do think though that his genuine personality does shine in a lot of his work. This album, strangely, keeps that honesty and showcases a sort of growth and maturity, but it does it in the most boring way possible. It's like the album equivalent of someone telling an adult that they're too old to play video games or watch animated movies and instead they should get a 9 to 5 or play golf or something. Either way, we'll start with the first track on the album, Reputation, which kind of sets the tone for the entire record. It's nothing amazing, but it doesn't do anything noticeably bad either. It's a piano ballad with these crooning vocals. It's a bit awkward and weird as an opener, but it does its job. It does, however, introduce a fairly common occurrence on this project, and that is this sort of weird and wobbly vibrato that Post has got going on in his vocals. It can occasionally sound pretty off-putting. I think it kind of rides the line here. It's nothing too bad, but it doesn't really do his vocals any favors either. The lyrics are somber and expressive enough, but the instrumental with its very simple and sparse piano and synth are pretty boring and cliche. Cooped Up kinda sucks ass, to be honest. It's the most basic pop rap sound imaginable, with these wailing vocals and vocal effects that just kind of overshadow any semblance of emotion that this song could have had. The beat is limp and lifeless, and Roddy Ricch sounds like he either forgot what beat he was rapping over, or he just didn't know how to put his verse onto the beat. It doesn't flow well at all, and at a certain point, it just sounds like he's just saying things. It's probably one of the most rambling verses I've heard in a minute. Post doesn't really pull his weight either, leading to a very bland and mundane song overall. Lemon Tree, however, is I think one of the more notable tracks on the album, despite that vibrato coming in once again. The actual acoustic guitar does add some intimacy to the song overall, and the general melancholic sing-along vibe that we got going on here at least is pretty different for the record. The chorus does have some life to it, and I can at least appreciate Post trying out some different vocal styles on this one. I'm also really liking the more intricate synth passages that show up here and there, giving off a dynamic that's a bit more interesting compared to a lot of the other songs on the project. The lyrics are also fairly vivid as well, with Post kind of drawing comparisons to how he sees other people being happy while he isn't, to different types of fruit. It's an interesting idea, at least. Wrapped Around Your Finger is another one of the better songs on the record, if I had to pick one, feeling a bit more passionate and also feeling a bit more full of life compared to a lot of the other songs. It's a simple synth-pop tune, but the beat and chorus are pretty catchy, and the bass is also pretty fun. The lyrics also show a pretty interesting side to Post, as him hooking up with someone who actually didn't know who he was made him sort of realize that he was using his fame as a crutch for his lack of introspection and sort of self-discovery. It seems like he's kind of implying that he was using his fame so much to connect with people and hook up with people that he kind of forgot how to hook up and connect with someone just as himself. The song does tend to stay in one place for a lot of its runtime, but it's pretty engaging nonetheless. I Like You, a happier song, is also just okay. The beat is pretty simple, largely being your typical pop rap flair, but Post's flows are pretty bouncy and I think they do showcase a decent amount of personality. It's pretty repetitive though, and Doja Cat, despite having a pretty decent verse, largely doesn't really add much to the track, largely because she's doing fairly similar things as Post is. The vibes are very light and summery, as it's kind of a breezy sort of love song, but honestly, there's just not much interesting going on here. After this though, the album really takes a downturn towards the mundane. I Cannot Be, a sadder song, has a very simple and uninteresting beat, being the most bare minimum it can be for the genre, without any sort of interesting layers or emotional impact. Gunna fits in alright here, I guess, but everything else is just so bland that I just don't care. Others like Insane do nothing, Love-Hate Letter to Alcohol sounds like an awkward Imagine Dragons ballad, and Wasting Angels is just so sparse and skeletal that it just has no impact. Euthanasia is definitely one of the most lyrically poignant songs on the album, I think, with Posts at times seriously sounding like he was considering suicide or euthanasia. This at least was the case when the song was written. I'm kind of hoping that its inclusion on this album about maturity is him sort of showing how he surpassed these feelings and rose above these feelings, but if not, this song might be actually kind of a serious cry for help. And while I do think this song is very lyrically poignant and I hope Post is getting better, instrumentally, it just does not back up these ideas at all. It's echoing and sparse, but it doesn't make for a very memorable song. When I'm Alone is probably the best song on the record overall, with these hard-hitting and echoing drums underneath the synth and bass. This flash of slight intensity is a breath of fresh air for the record, I have to say, feeling like a brief moment of passion in the midst of meandering numbness. The flow switch in the second verse is pretty smooth, and the chorus is a pretty good example of Post's more melodic moments. It also lyrically showcases some serious regret that Post has with a past relationship and how he's kind of hoping he can reconcile with his ex. The last song I wanted to talk about is One Right Now, which unfortunately largely sounds like a reject from The Weeknd's Dawn FM, which is actually kind of fitting because The Weeknd is featured on this track. It has this basic bass-driven beat that just has no impact whatsoever. The vocals are pretty bad, and the lyrics are just cringy, like, you say you want to have my babies, I fucked you so good, you should pay me? Like, where's the growth and maturation here that was present on the rest of the album? Like, I don't fucking know. It's such a weird way to end the project. Like, this song is almost a direct refutation of everything that Post was establishing up until this point. This album overall just makes me sad, man. It's like Post wanted to make a very deep and introspective record, but his label or some fucking corpo higher-up just made him drench it in the blandest and most mundane production possible. The lyrics show a great amount of emotional vulnerability and introspection, sometimes to a concerning degree, like on Euthanasia. The instrumentals, however, betray all of this, having little to no emotional impact at all, and they largely don't back up the ideas present in the lyrics. The album is so homogenized in terms of sound that it becomes a bore to listen to, when it should have been invigorating and captivating because of the provocative subject matter. Post needs to, like, fight with his record label or something to get more raw and layered instrumentals for his next project. His voice, when more naturalistic, carries a good weight to it, and he can write some pretty introspective lyrics. However, his production betrays him. He needs to have instrumentals that back up the rawness that he has everywhere else. For that reason, this album, I'm feeling a strong 3, maybe light 4 if I'm really feeling it, but we'll just go strong 3 for now. Of course, we do have to talk about album covers on this show, and for what it's worth, I do think this is a pretty cool album cover. You know, the whole butterfly on the knife aesthetic is sort of cliche at this point. You kind of see it a lot. However, I think the visual style of this album cover is really cool. It's very modern in that it has this very minimalistic aesthetic to it that I really enjoy, actually. The colors are fairly simple as well, being a very much black, white, gray color scheme with a flash of red here and there. The imagery, again, is cliche, but it is pretty provocative when done in a minimalistic state, and I do think it actually matches the aesthetic and sound of the record for the most part, so for what it's worth, album cover's pretty cool. But those are just my thoughts on this newest album by Post Malone. What do you guys think? Do you think this is maybe Post Malone going in a more mature direction? Or do you think he still needs to find that raw sound to really bring out those lyrics and his vocals? Let me know. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, ring the bell if you're raw as hell, and until the next one, farewell.